Hi, welcome to Arts and Entertainment.
With Chris and Randall.
I'm Chris.
I'm Randall.
Welcome to our show where we get together and we talk about something that has to do with arts and entertainment. It's unscripted, it's unpredictable, and we normally try to keep it as short as possible, which we never succeed. Before I get any further, if you have watched this show before and you have not yet liked and subscribed it, please like and subscribe it. If you are just watching it for the first time, like and subscribe it. If we say anything during this show that will cause you to formulate a reaction, an opinion, please leave your comment in the comment section so we can respond to it. We will try to respond to all the comments that appear in a fairly timely manner when they appear. Obviously, if you posted a comment like a year later, we may not respond. But hey, why would you do that?
We'll see them. We will see them all.
We'll see them all, right, Randall?
Yeah, we have a bot constantly scanning the entire internet for discussions about us. Okay, no, we don't. But
no, we should. We'll definitely get one. Randall, this is what I would like to call a very special show because this is really the Randall show. In that it is something that Randall has got to get off his chest. Something Randall has strong feelings about. I like to call this Randall's hate on in arts and entertainment. So, Randall, tell us.
Okay, I guess I'll start.
Beef?
Okay, I guess I'll start with just I don't think J.J. Abrams is a very good writer. I guess I'll say I think he's
J.J. Abrams, the writer.
He's
director,
a producer. He's a producer. But
he's made movies and TV shows.
Right.
For my grandmother who doesn't live anymore, can you at least explain who J.J. Abrams is?
He's a mega Hollywood producer. Okay, he's like a top Hollywood producer. And a producer is somebody in Hollywood who basically is the boss of a project. Okay,
he made Lost, right? That was his show.
Right. He became the executive producer of Lost. Alias, I'm not sure what his involvement with Alias was actually.
He created, I think that he took over the Star Treks, right?
Yeah, I think he. Okay, yeah, but let me start at the beginning with my
okay.
My disapproval.
Just for those of us who don't know who J.J. Abrams is.
Right. Well, yeah. He's also the latest Star Wars trilogy. He was in charge of that. He was the executive producer of the latest Star Wars trilogy. Okay. So here's my problem with J.J. Abrams. Okay, I first noticed that J.J. Abrams was a terrible hack during the TV show Lost. Okay. Now, a lot of people remember Lost for having the most disappointing ending of all time. And I believe that the reason it was such a bad ending is because of J.J. Abrams, okay? Because it has his fingerprints all over it. See, executive producers aren't the writers, right? But they're the main boss on all these projects. So they make the final say on everything, right? Now, what I've read about Lost is Lost was a surprise hit from the beginning, okay? Because there's a story that the original executive producer of Lost, who greenlit it, this is a famous Hollywood story, who greenlit it, he okayed the pilot of Lost going way over budget. They went because he approved the use of an airplane for a prop.
Yeah, I think it was the president of ABC, Ted Haybert, who once he left ABC, he still would do the voices of the recaps of each show. But it's an interesting tidbit in case you're concerned.
Well, this will give you a window into Hollywood works. So he went way over budget on the pilot by okaying this plane, and it was a perfect aesthetic story decision. Okay, it was the right decision, and the pilot of Lost was a huge hit. It made the whole series a huge hit. Okay. But because he went over budget, they fired him.
And he was just reduced to being a voiceover commentator for the next several years.
Right, exactly.
This is last week's episode of Lost.
I mean, well, this will tell you a lot about what it really means to be a good producer, a good director. I mean, see, people outside of the industry don't understand that, like, the reason somebody's a good director or a good producer is probably because they deliver the most bang for the buck, is because they use the budget in the most efficient way possible. It has nothing to do with art, okay? But anyway, doesn't matter. That so Lost becomes a huge hit, and 2 seasons in, the writers of Lost are talking about, well, let's just make this 3 seasons, right? I mean, how much story do we have here? We don't have that much story here. You know, we have a set number of characters on an island. You know, what are we gonna do? Shipwreck another plane on the island so we could have more stories? I mean, come on. Okay, so it becomes a huge
I have
hit.
to admit, that tells you just how much money these guys are making, that they're willing to go, hey, you know what? I think I just want to work for one more year. Most people, if you're a plumber or an architect, you're not going like, yeah, I think I just want to work for one more year.
Yeah, TV is huge money. I think TV writers are the highest paid writers in the history of the world, probably ever. Probably no writers will ever be paid more ever after this. But anyway, so Lost becomes a huge hit, and usually what happens in Hollywood when something becomes a surprise hit, none of the executives at the studio know who these people are, you know, then that's when they start saying, oh, we got to bring in somebody to executive produce this project, to guide this project, who we know, who we trust, you know, because now that it's a hit, we can't let these idiots who made it a hit to actually guide it, because they don't know what they're doing, even though they're the ones that made it a hit. I mean, this is how Hollywood people think, right? So who do they call? They call J.J. Abrams to come in and guide Lost and tell these idiots, no, it's not going to be 3 seasons. It's going to be like, I don't know, 100,000 seasons, whatever. However many seasons we can get out of it.
Well, I
in
mean,
the end, they eventually had 5 seasons.
Wasn't he at that time still producing Alias, or Alias had just gone off the air? And I think Alias had run for about 5 or 7 seasons on ABC and was a fairly successful 1-hour show with a fairly dedicated following.
I have no idea, but yeah, he was.
It started like Jennifer Garner. She played a spy. I never watched the show. I apologize.
Right, I have no idea, but yeah, he had a track record at that point. But I'll tell you something about J.J. Abrams. Now, I didn't know this at first, okay, because I didn't care I didn't care anything about J.J. Abrams, right? He just ruined Lost, in my opinion. But J.J. Abrams is Hollywood royalty. His dad was, I think, a TV writer too. So he was grandfathered in. I think I read on his Wikipedia that when he was like in his 20s or something, like he felt a lot of pressure because, you know, he wanted to
I can tell you the J.J. Abrams story in that sense, because
go ahead.
I remember we talked about him in film school. So J.J. Abrams was from New York City, though his family moved to L.A., and he does have a sister who also is a TV writer, and some other family members in TV. But as young as 14, he started writing screenplays.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And he wrote, there's a movie.
Secret of My Success? Was that the one?
No, hold on. It's a movie with Charles Grodin and Jim Belushi.
Right.
Where Charles Grodin loses his Rolodex and Jim Belushi plays an imposter. Anyway, he wrote that as a teenager. And there's another film with Mel Gibson where Mel Gibson gets suspended in animation for 30 years and then comes back. He wrote that. I don't think either of those films were his first script to sell. The first script to sell, and he sells this, I think, by the time he's 18, is Regarding Henry, with Harrison Ford and Annette Bening, directed by Mike Nichols. And I mean, a really insane, he's like the youngest guy to ever write a screenplay that gets to be this, or in modern film history, that gets released as an A-list film with all this A-list talent behind it. And then the other films get made, and that really catapults his career in film. I don't know how he got to television. I will say through personal friends that once he lived in Los Angeles, he cultivated friendships in high school or in college with a number of other people who he now works with when he makes the Star Trek films. And I think he also worked with those same people on Lost and maybe some of the other projects. But
okay,
he was a phenom. He broke early.
Right. Well, he broke early because his dad's in the industry. I mean, his dad's in the industry.
Yeah, but I think he broke early because, in fairness, he really was a talented screenwriter when he was young. He wrote, for a teenager, he wrote at an adult level. And Regarding Henry is a pretty good script. Have you ever seen the film?
Years ago, but
it's a good script. Not a great script, but it's a good script. The Forever Young movie is a pretty good film. The comedy I just mentioned, it's funny. I don't know if other people rewrote the script, how much of that original script, but in fairness, I think we can argue he was recognized as a young, talented screenwriter. Beyond that, I don't know, but
Well,
he did have great promise.
okay, I'm gonna make a timeful digression here, but there's this myth in all the arts, especially in the fine arts, but in all the arts, that there's no such thing as training. Okay, great artists are born, and you have to identify them.
I'm not saying he's a great
And
artist. I'm saying that he was a very competent, technically well-versed young screenwriter.
well, it's because his dad is in the industry and helping him.
Well, but no, that's not. That's actually, look, he wrote a lot of scripts.
That's
from
just
the
my
age of
opinion.
14. In fair, whether they're good or bad is your opinion. But whether or not he just happened to have a famous father who got him a career going, that is a very debatable point that I would take issue with, only because he dedicated so much of his youth to the art of screenwriting and was so dedicated to it. So I'm sure his father, it helped, but to say he's a talentless hack as a young screenwriter, I don't know if I can.
Well, I haven't got to the talentless hack argument.
I think
yet.
we then go to it, man. Because
All right, fine. I will get to the talentless hack argument. So the reason I think he's a talentless hack is because, okay, he's not totally talentless. I mean, obviously, but I think he has bad instincts as a writer. I do. He has horrible instincts as a writer. And Lost is the beginning of the example of how horrible his instincts are. Okay, so he's brought on Lost to the writers of Lost, by the way, they created a wonderful show. They are good. They were talented. Okay. The writers who made the first 2 seasons of Lost, amazingly talented. Okay. I don't know what
it's a
happened.
great show. I really do admit, the first 2 seasons are my favorite 2 seasons as well. Excellent television.
So now they bring in J.J. Abrams. His job is mostly to crack heads until they tell these writers to stretch it out to 5 seasons. Okay. So now what do they do to stretch out to 5 seasons? They start introducing, concepts of good and evil, right? There's somebody they bring in a character who represents ultimate evil and a character that represents ultimate good. These are things that you constantly see in J.J. Abrams projects. Okay. Just very simplistic representations of good and evil, very simplistic explanations of evil, of good. And then you see very simplistic battles between good and evil. I mean, there are battles between the good character and evil character on Lost that are just literally just fist fights, and they're boring and nobody cares about them. And it's like, why are we watching this? I mean, it's horrible. And there's a bunch of threads that the writers set up in the first 2 seasons that do not pay off. And I think it's because J.J. Abrams comes in and says, what is this science stuff you have in here? I mean, that's all I can think. I mean, after the first 2 seasons, they dropped almost all the science fiction stuff. I mean, and they brought in all this spiritual stuff, and it's like, and I feel like that's J.J. Abrams, because I don't have any other explanation for that. And I read an interview.
How about his handling of Star Trek and Star Wars?
Okay, let's go on to Star Trek.
Especially since you said he cuts science fiction. Are you saying that he doesn't like science fiction?
Well, see, Lost, I think, is a science fiction show. Okay, but it's a science fiction show that's so palatable to non-science fiction audiences that it became a hit. And I could see why J.J. Abrams gets all the credit for Lost. He shouldn't get any credit for Lost, but he gets all the credit for Lost because they brought him in as executive producer midway through the show when it was already good, so he could shit all over it. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't use that word. Say S all over it. But he gets all the credit for Lost because he's J.J. Abrams. He gets all the credit because Hollywood knows who J.J. Abrams is. Okay? This is how
Alias was certainly a very successful TV show. I'm not saying Alias was a science fiction show. It was an espionage, high-concept show. Probably had some kind of elements that are science fictional-like. Didn't he also work on Felicity, or am I wrong?
Let me see. I'm looking at his
which also had
IMDb.
science fictional elements as
Yeah, he
well.
did Felicity. Okay, I didn't
So
watch
that had
Felicity.
science fictional elements. They did a Twilight Zone style episode. So he's always kind of played fast and loose. I mean, even Forever Young, about a man in suspended animation, is science fictional. I will agree. I think also what you're talking about, this simplistic moral universe, you can really see it in those early screenplays I mentioned. And I think it's possible that because he broke at such a young age, his intellectual and aesthetic understanding of good and evil never evolved. And
Well,
in some sense, as a
right,
man in his 40s and 50s, he still writes like a bright young teenager.
right. Well, Fran Lebowitz, the great Fran Lebowitz, right?
Yeah.
She said something very interesting about. Well, she said something very interesting about everything, but she said, of course, musicians are always young and writers are always old, because to be a musician, you don't have to know anything. I- it's hilarious, right?
Ouch.
But she's right, right?
So, Star Trek, Star Wars. Clearly,
Well,
Star Trek
the Star
gained him a lot of credibility when he
well the Star
revived
Trek well the interesting thing, Star Trek reboot, I don't think is horrible, okay? Because he takes Star Trek and he basically turns Star Trek into Star Wars. He turned Star
How
Trek into
so?
he turned Star Trek into a space opera, with over-the-top characters and special effects and action, and there's very little philosophy. There's very little. The old Star Trek is about philosophy and ideas, and J.J. Abrams said, "Ideas? I don't like ideas," of course. But that's what it is. He made a blockbuster movie out of the Star Trek franchise. I don't have a problem with it. It was entertaining, whatever. I mean,
All
uh,
three, or do you like all three? I liked the first. I thought the first was very good.
the
I will
reboot.
admit, the first one that he did, I liked a lot. I agree with you. It doesn't feel like a Star Trek movie, but I think I like the acting in it, and I like the production design in
I
the film.
could I just
It's
say
not a particularly strong story, and I'm a geek, so I like pretty much every Star Trek movie except for Star Trek 3. I hate Star Trek 3, but other than this, and Star Trek 5.
Well, let me just say, the first time I
Okay.
watched the first Star Trek reboot that Abrams did, I literally had this thought, and I didn't even know. I don't even think if I knew J.J. Abrams was doing it. I literally had the thought, whoever made this movie really wants to make Star Wars. I
Which
literally
is
had that
funny
thought watching it.
because so then what do you think about Star Wars? I mean, that should be the most perfect
Okay,
match then.
now we're gonna get to the meat, because I think Star Wars really shows the latest Star Wars trilogy that just ended. It just really shows just how much of a hack writer J.J. Abrams is, okay? Because,
Hack writer, hack producer.
well, I don't know. Like I said about earlier, like how good a producer somebody is really how much bang for the buck they got. So I don't know. I think J.J. Abrams must be a good producer because they keep hiring him again, okay? Um, but the only people who know how good a producer he is are the ones that they're giving him money. Let's see. So, okay, I'm trying to look at the IMDb to see. Okay, forget it. Okay, so everybody knows what I'm talking about. The the latest Star Wars trilogy. So what happens is Abrams makes the first one, the first installment, right? And I guess people liked it, but it's kind of disappointing because all it is I swear, all it is, somebody took the original script of A New Hope and they just rewrote it. And they replaced as many characters as they could with more marketable characters. So instead of R2D2, you have like a smaller, cuter R2D2. Instead of Luke Skywalker, you have a woman Luke Skywalker, so that you can get more women, I guess. I don't know. And then, it just goes on like that. I mean, the stormtrooper.
I will say I did not like any of the Star Wars in the new compilation of the trilogy, but I will say that I kind of know where you're going with it, in that when you look at A New Hope, you really see the characters as people, fully fleshed individuals, even if they're not truly people, human beings. And I felt like in the Star Wars reboot, the one that just came out with Rey and all those other characters, they felt more like types, like you catch glimpses of who they are. There's mystery, there's backstory. Many things are hinted, but I always feel like they seem more iconic than people. They never really come across as flesh. In fact, to me, the only personal moment of the whole first film is the last few seconds where Mark Hamill is just staring out at Rey. Luke is staring at Rey, and Rey is staring at Luke on that giant mountain. And that's like the first time that you see literally two human beings becoming human beings, in my opinion.
Well, since we're on the subject, yeah, I thought Kylo Ren was okay. I thought Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker was okay. I thought that
and you have great actors like John Boyega.
Yeah, Boyega, he's the one who played the stormtrooper, right?
Right, and Oscar Isaac is one of my favorite. Even the actress who plays the lead, I forgot her name. They're all really good.
Yeah, she does a good job. I mean,
in other films. You know what I'm saying? They're really good actors in other films.
What's his name? Boyega, or is it? How do you say it?
Yeah.
I don't know. But
in fact, Harrison Ford, who worked with J.J. Abrams in Regarding Henry, is terrible in this film. He's just horrible.
Well, there's a rumor he didn't want to do him.
Adam Driver, what an amazing actor! Probably the greatest actor of his generation, along with Oscar Isaac. Terrible. I mean, they say that George Lucas never knew how to direct human beings. He was a guy who could only focus the film on the technology and the actors do the rest. Every actor in this movie, theoretically, could have worked with George Lucas because they know how to act. And yet every actor in that first film, it just seems to be on mute.
Well, I don't know.
I just don't think there's one good performance in that whole film.
Well, I thought Kylo Ren, I thought he did a good job for most of it. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but you disagree with me. But Boyega, I think he did a great job. I think that his character, the stormtrooper that goes over, I think that that had the most potential to be an interesting character. But
I think that Adam Driver is given the most room to act in that film because he's playing essentially the antagonist and the character with the greatest backstory, and therefore he gives him room. But I think it's kind of true actually in general with anything you've mentioned, which is J.J. Abrams always does these ensemble pieces. That's one of his big tells. And yet I would never consider him a maker of ensemble films or TV shows.
Because he doesn't know what he's doing. When it comes to narrative, J.J. Abrams doesn't know what he's doing, okay? I don't know. He needs to go to film school. But anyway.
But I'm just saying he's not an actor's director.
I do love the scene where Kylo Ren takes off his helmet and smashes it against the wall like he's not going to wear it anymore. That's like my favorite scene out of the whole trilogy, I think. But anyway.
It's a good scene.
But
it's also like Adam Driver in a Marriage Story. He does something similar. On Girls, he does something similar. I mean, Adam Driver smashing shit up, and that's kind of his thing.
Always entertaining. I actually like that.
But like him having like a physical, violent kind of storming issue, that's why you see Adam Driver. That's kind of like Will Smith going, what's that famous Will Smith quote that he used to always say? Anyway, it's like that. I don't remember.
All right, let me get back to the subject. Okay. So J.J. Abrams makes the first Star Wars movie. It's basically just a rehash of A New Hope, and he's not even bothering to make new characters. He's just like rebooting old characters. I mean, it's horrible. Okay. I mean, okay, it's watchable, but it's horrible. But then Abrams realizes, how over his head he is. Okay, he doesn't know what he's doing. He's not a good writer. Okay, he doesn't know what to do with Star Wars. So then he brings in Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson is obviously a very strong writer. Like, have you ever watched Knives Out?
I love his stuff. All of his films.
Rian Johnson is an extremely strong writer. And that second Star Wars movie is great. Okay. Now, I know there's a bunch of fanboys supposedly. I want to say something about this. This idea that there's a bunch of Star Wars fanboys that hate the second one. I think it's a lie. Okay. Because I think that it's very easy. I think this is okay. You want to hear my conspiracy theory? I think what happened is the second movie comes out. J.J. Abrams realizes how good it is. Okay. And J.J. Abrams doesn't want – see, Abrams I think this shows you the character of Abrams. He doesn't want somebody to take the spotlight away from him, because Rian Johnson is now stealing the spotlight away from him, because all the critics loved the second movie. So that's when J.J. Abrams starts, I am sure this is my conspiracy theory. He hires a PR company to do an internet sock puppet campaign against the second Star Wars movie, where supposedly fanboys are railing against that movie. Okay. Now, I've seen a couple of YouTube videos where fanboys tear apart the movie, but I don't see the huge negative reaction against it. I just don't see it. And it's a great movie, by the way. I mean, the thing about the second movie is that I find really striking is that Rian Johnson really understands Eastern philosophy. Okay.
Yeah.
Unlike J.J. Abrams. Okay. And very much like George Lucas. Lucas understood Eastern philosophy. When Lucas put the Eastern philosophy into a Western science fiction movie, it was groundbreaking. Yeah. And George Lucas understood Eastern philosophy. Okay. So does Rian Johnson. J.J. Abrams does not. Okay. When in the second Star Wars, when Yoda destroys the ancient texts and he says they were boring to read.
Yeah.
Not a good read. What does it say? Anyway, when he destroys them, that's straight out of Buddhism. That's exactly what a Buddhist teacher would say. Okay?
That's right.
I mean, when Luke Skywalker is talking about, what is it? He talks about light and dark are the same sides of the two sides of the same coin and stuff. I mean, that's straight out of Buddhism. That's straight out of Eastern philosophy. Okay? This idea that Star Wars is like good against evil, that's ridiculous. And that's all J.J. Abrams had.
I will make a quick plug while we talk about Rian Johnson, completely unrelated. But I just saw The Brothers Bloom on YouTube. It's free for the time being. He did it in 2008. Really great film. And he did a great science fiction film called Looper.
Yes, I remember Looper.
So he was certainly no stranger to science fiction. And he also directed an episode of Breaking Bad.
Which one did he direct?
Episode 51. I don't know anything about it.
Oh, okay. All right.
I did that because I was realizing that Abrams had produced one of the Mission Impossible movies, Fallout, which I liked. So I have to admit, maybe that may be my favorite J.J. Abrams. That may be my favorite thing by J.J. Abrams is that he didn't mess up the Mission Impossible Fallout movie. He didn't direct it. He didn't write it. But he did produce it, along with a number of other people who produced Tom Cruise films. I do think that's maybe his best.
All right. Well,
and I'm exactly 6 months older than him. I discovered too today.
All right. Well, back to my conspiracy theory. So,
all right.
So J.J. Abrams starts a sock puppet campaign to make it seem like all the fanboys, right? Not actual moviegoers, just the fanboys hate the second movie. Why? So that he can get Rian Johnson off the movie. So he can bring himself back in. Okay? So now he's an excuse to come back in and triumphantly, right? And prove that he's still the best in Hollywood. He's top dog in Hollywood, right? Because Rian Johnson was supposed to come in and make him look good. But Rian Johnson's just making Rian Johnson look good, right? So now J.J. Abrams comes back in. You can see what he did. He retconned all of Rian Johnson's stuff. Okay? Now he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that for any narrative reason. He doesn't do that to please the fanboys. He does that because he wants to show the world that Rian Johnson doesn't know what he's doing. He wants to show the world that he's better than Rian Johnson. He's smarter than Rian Johnson. Okay? And it's dumb because now you're going to waste a bunch of time in the movie retconning stuff in the second movie. Okay? Just make the movie. Okay? Don't waste my time turning back the clock. I mean, it was ridiculous.
It's interesting you should say that.
And it's boring. And the third movie's terrible.
I've read interviews with Lawrence Kasdan talking about Empire Strikes Back, which is actually my favorite Star Wars movie. And it was directed by Irvin Kershner, who's not a science fiction director at all. He had done some great social realism in the 70s. But it was to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Empire. And Kasdan talks about working with Lucas and how Lucas would give him very, very helpful story notes, on how to write it. He approached, look, Kasdan had written the script for Raiders. Lucas was looking for someone to help him put together the sequel to Empire, which is the first sequel to Star Wars. And Kasdan is very, very complimentary about how Lucas would take no credit for any of his impact in helping shape both the script for Raiders or the script for Empire, and for that he fought for someone like for Kirshner, who was not at all the studio's choice for a studio director to direct it, and that Lucas at least had the freedom. Look, afterwards he would direct and write all of his own scripts, but at least he understood when he gave away the reins on Empire, he was much more comfortable for doing it and letting them make these choices that really run against what you know about the first Star Wars movie. So the only thing that, one of the key things that Lucas told Kasdan was, Luke's father is Darth Vader and Leia is his sister. Go, right. So he gave him a draft, but he gave him freedom, is my point. He gave him freedom, he gave him respect, and he understood that the people that he had hired to take his baby to a sequel, he gave them his trust. And it sounds like J.J. Abrams, from what you're saying, never gave Rian Johnson the trust. And then afterwards, when Lucas makes the third film, it seems seamless. I'm not a big fan of Return of the Jedi, but wouldn't you agree? Return of the Jedi does really seem like the seamless second part of what was established in Empire.
Yes, totally agree.
You don't really feel at all in the last Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker feels like it came completely from another movie.
When you got to waste a bunch of time in the third movie talking about like why the first two movies, like you should just disregard them, it's ridiculous. George Lucas is a good writer. He's a great writer. Okay, Lucas knew exactly what he was doing, and when he goes to make Jedi, he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's got to do. Narratively speaking, he
knows what's already been established by the last film. So what the audience expectations are and the world that he's established. I mean, I would later on get very pissed off at him when he would come back, but that's another story. I hate, what is it, the weird protons that make a Jedi?
Midi-chlorians?
Midi-chlorians. That was horrible, but that's another story.
I mean, I like a lot of what Lucas added in the prequels. I mean, I know I'm like a dissenting voice on that, but I do. I like the little bits of explanation.
Hell no. That's what Willis Smith used to say, and that's my response to you. Hell no.
Well, let's see. I think I had two more things I wanted to say about J.J. Abrams. Okay, I forgot one of them, but I will say one of the ultimate J.J. Abrams projects where you can really see J.J. Abrams like just crap all over everything is 10 Cloverfield Lane. 10 Cloverfield Lane is a fun little like sci-fi movie. Now, great acting.
The first of the Cloverfield trilogy. I never watched any of them.
I think it.
No, it's the second. Right?
My understanding.
Cloverfield Lane. And then the Cloverfield Paradox.
Well, the way I feel about it is it's not really a sequel. I almost feel like they just took a script that was good and they just threw it into the Cloverfield universe. But when you watch this movie, it's a great movie. The writing's great. But then you get to the ending. So, does this sound familiar? Does it sound like Lost? You get to the ending and it ruins the whole thing. I mean, it is like... you know what? And when I got to that ending, I was like, I don't think I saw the Bad Robot logo in the beginning. And when I got to the ending, I was like, what the hell? Is this a J.J. Abrams project? I'm not making this up. I'm like, is this J.J. Abrams? And I look it up. It's J.J. Abrams. He did it. He did it. Because like that's what happens in J.J. Abrams projects. He has terrible, terrible instincts when it comes to narrative. Terrible instincts. I mean, I don't know what kind of producer he is otherwise, but he needs to really let the writers write because because the second Star Wars was great. You know what? He should just let Rian Johnson. But you know what? The other thing I want to say is, you know what? These projects are way more than just one or two people. There's like tons and tons of people working on these projects. There's tons and tons of considerations. So, I mean, maybe things are more complicated than of course, what I'm imagining. But J.J. Abrams is the boss of these projects. You know, he's got the final say, and you can see his fingerprints all over these projects. I mean, every J.J. Abrams project, you see the same simplistic thinking, the same simplistic characters, the same, like, you know, sometimes on a J.J. Abrams project, you'll see this. He didn't write it, so the script will be strong. You know, the characters will be strong. It's interesting, and then you can see the J.J. Abrams fingerprint come down. You know, the J.J. Abrams thumb on the scale. You know, tilting it towards J.J. Abrams land. You know, because everybody who's top dog in Hollywood has got to put their imprint on stuff. You know, so. But anyway, I guess this is the end of my J.J. Abrams rant.
Well,
if J.J. Abrams ever listens to this,
Yeah.
this is nothing personal. Nothing personal, okay? You know, I don't know. I'm a nobody. Nothing.
If J.J. Abrams is watching, I have a number of scripts I'd really like to get to. Just you can leave a DM me. You don't have to leave a comment in Facebook. Just DM me.
Chris,
We'll talk.
now's your
My
opportunity.
management will-
Now's your opportunity to tell me, to just make a statement about how you think I'm completely wrong and J.J. Abrams is awesome.
You know what? I think that you raised a lot of good points. I did like the movies that I mentioned on some level, but I never thought they were great. I don't particularly like the new Star Wars. I did not like what happened to Star Trek. I did not like what happened to Lost. I looked up how they ended Alias. I didn't think it ended very well. Haven't seen Felicity. I hear it's great. I hear it may be his best work.
It's got a 6. Felicity, the TV series, has a 6.7 on IMDb, which for a TV show is really low.
I would say this much. As much as I have an opinion about what you just said, I'm actually much more interested than you, who've been watching and hanging out with us for almost 40 minutes. What do you think? Do you agree with Randall? Do you agree with me? Did Randall say something that you go, no, that pissed me off. I'm going to tell him. I'm going to lay down some truth to Randall. Or, yeah, more power to Randall. And plus, so if we've ever really done a show to really get you to say something back to us, come on. People who share Randall's point of view, leave your comments. People who think what you just said, dude, was way out of line. Oh, hell no, folks. You guys, now's your chance. I promise you this. If anybody has anything to say about what we just said, we will gladly follow it up on a shorter, briefer response. Because you're being controversial, man. So, cool. Any last words, Randall? This was really your show, your baby.
No. We need to end this.
All right.
I've destroyed any chance of a career in Hollywood. We need to end this right now.
That's right. I'm Chris, and if this affects my career, then no, I love J.J. Abrams.
And I love J.J. Abrams, too.
And thank you for watching our show.